The industrial look is extremely popular at the moment, but unless you live in a warehouse, it can be hard to achieve, not to mention expensive. We've had a letter from Brooklyn. She loves the industrial style, but getting it to work in her typical suburban home is a real challenge. So I'm off to help her out. Hey, Brooklyn.
Hi, Tara.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you. Look at this, bit of DIY going on here. Girl after my own heart.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm going to fix this up here and give it a bit of a paint.
Now, I hear you're a bit of a handy woman inside as well. Can I take a look around?
Yeah, sure.
Oh,
come on in.
Sounds good. Oh, wow, what a great space. It's huge.
Yeah.
It's got a great feel. I can see you love industrial. The shelving unit, that reminds me of something that I've made on the show before. Oh. Fantastic. I love all of that pipe work.
Beautiful.
But I do think you could utilise that wall more. We could actually extend it out. So if we keep that in the room, maybe bring it over onto this wall, what I think we could do, if you want to keep going with that, is give it another layer of interest. I think we could really utilise the whole length of that wall, because it's a great new product that I know would look so good on that wall.
Yeah, that sounds really good.
As a lover of all things industrial, I know you'll love the look of polished concrete. So great on floors, even better on walls, but it's really expensive to actually get someone to come in and do it for you. Up until now, because look, you can actually buy polished concrete in a can. Isn't that amazing?
Fantastic.
It's just like normal paint, we just have to cut in first.
Okay, sounds great.
There we go, I'm going to stop there. It's an interesting paint because you have to work it while it's still wet. So normally with painting, you cut in first and then you do your rollering. The next part of the process is to use a roller. This one's a little bit different to a normal wall roller. It's the long nap, you know, the kind you would use on a brick wall, for instance. Yes. And rather than doing the whole lot, we're just going to work in small sections and get to it before it's dried. So if you get some paint on the wall, I'll go get the trowel.
Okay.
The concrete effect paint comes in two colours. This lighter shade is perfect in a smaller space like Brooklyn's lounge room. Ah, looking good.
Yeah, it's a lot thicker than normal paint, isn't it?
It certainly is. That's exactly what we're looking for. And the thicker you apply it, the better the effect. Because what I need to do now, you get a trowel. Look at that, and that's how you get the concrete look.
Oh, it's lovely.
And this is why you don't want to do too much paint at any one time, because if it dries, you can't work it. So this is the kind of effect we're after. Obviously, we're getting these little patches, but don't worry about that, because on the second and third coat, we can fill that in. And we don't want these harsh side lines, so I'm just using the trowel just to feather it off like that. I think if we tag team, we can get this wall done in no time. How are we looking?
Yeah, it looks really good. Really happy with it.
It's going to take about 2 hours to dry before we can do the next coat. Why don't we down tools, leave it be, head out the front and make some shelves.
Okay, sounds good.
We've got our concrete element setting nicely. Now, another great part of the industrial look is timber, especially raw timber. So I was lucky enough to pick up this old slab. It's actually a section of a power pole, and I found it from a second-hand yard. So I went for this because it actually has so many of these gorgeous characteristics, things like these holes, this lovely grain. It's not perfect. You don't want anything that's too perfect in there.
It's beautiful.
So what we need to do here is just give it a very light sand, just to take off these splinters around the edges. On with the mask, and away we go. I think most people assume you have to varnish furniture, but in actual fact, you can just wax it. What you're looking for is a clear wax. You could put it on with a rag, but I prefer steel wool, so I go for the fine grade. Just get a little wodge of steel wool, you know, a decent amount like that, and just dig it into the wax, and always apply it with the grain. And you'll see here that it's not really doing an awful lot. All it's doing is just enhancing the grain. Can you smell it? It smells good.
It smells beautiful.
You have a go with that. The reason I use steel wool as opposed to a rag is it kind of cuts into the grain and it gets right down into the timber. So I think it's a much nicer thing to apply the wax with, and also finely polishes as you go. Okay, so once you've got a good coat of wax over everything, you need to let it sit for about 10 or 15 minutes. That's going to let the wax dry. And then just get a soft, dry cloth like this and just give it a really nice, gentle buff. It's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Okay, well, you're off and running. I'm going to go and do coat number 2 on the concrete, and I'm going to leave you to it.
Okay,
enjoy. Coat number 2, it's exactly the same process. Cut in, roll, and trowel. You know the deal. You can see this is looking so much better with the second coat, much more like polished concrete. Now this does need a third coat. Honestly, you don't want to see that. It's like watching paint dry. So this is our handiwork after 3 coats. What do you think?
That's beautiful. That's
It's good,
amazing.
isn't it?
Yeah.
It does look a little bit flat though. So now the magic begins. What we're doing is we're using sandpaper, so feel that. It's
that's
fine.
really fine.
It's 600 grit, so it's super fine. We're basically just going to polish the wall. So circular motion, and then finally after that, if you grab that, you can do the sanding with the edge of the trowel, the one that we smoothed off before. Look at this. Just on the edge. See how it picks up all the texture? Isn't that beautiful? It's a 2-person job, so you sand, I'll trowel, and we'll go across the wall.
Sounds good.
Looking great though.
Yeah.
It's a good effect, isn't it? What do you think?
It's beautiful. It doesn't feel like paint. It feels like a real concrete polished floor.
There is one more step in the process. It's optional, but we could seal the wall. It'll just give it better protection. So if the kids have got jammy fingers and things like that, I think it's worth sealing. All we need to do is I'll cut in and you get rolling. So what we're using here is just a paving sealer. We've diluted it, as the can suggests, 1-to-1 with water. Just 1 coat across the wall, and that is going to seal the deal. Our beautiful timber shelves. You know, I would love these to be floating, but you've just felt the weight of this, just too heavy. So what I think we should do is get these brackets on the wall, and they're going to suit perfectly. Now, Brooklyn, this, I think, is looking better. It's more in scale with the wall. So instead of the old shelves that were right here under the television, because we've extended them out, we've actually made the room feel bigger. And having these thick shelves has just given the strength that the industrial look needs.
Yeah, I think it looks fantastic. I actually love it before it's even decorated.
Well, we should decorate it. There we go. Gosh, your sofas work well in this space.
Yeah, I think they look really good.
And the fact that we've been able to reuse your shelving unit, I think, is brilliant. So you're happy with the placement?
Oh, I think it works really well.
And in terms of styling up the sofas, very simple colour palette. Just gone for very muted, almost powdery colours.
And I would never have even thought to use the colours like the olive greens and the blushes with the industrial, so it's really...
It's soft, isn't it? And just having it with the pot plants, I just think it's beautiful. It's very stylish. So I think the secret when you're styling shelves is to group together a few things that you really love and that go with your theme, and go for objects that have different heights. Things like this. See, it's taller, slightly smaller. It just helps your eye to travel up and over the arrangement. And if you can, always pop in some living greenery. They're not that hard to keep alive. You can go for the faux greenery if you really struggle. It just warms the concrete look and adds that industrial element. And also what you can do is you can add a few baskets. Just some natural wicker or something like this in a room. It's interesting and it's textural. You can use that for plants, toys, magazines, or just keep them empty. I think we deserve a sit down, don't you?
Yes.
What do you
was
think?
So fun. This is exactly what I wanted. It makes the room feel and look a lot bigger, and it just really works.
It's brought it together, hasn't it?
I like the shelves with the decorations on them.
I really have to say, though, I think the thing that makes this room is our wall. Magnificent.
It's beautiful. It really creates a feature in this space, and
It looks like polished concrete. I think it's great. Can I move in?
Yeah, absolutely.